Not quite, man. I'm just playing around with something. Main lick scale. Not sure what you're talking about there, buddy. I'm just basically playing around with this melody note. The groove is in E flat minor. I'm just kind of playing around with this melody note. Stephen Lee, what's up to you, man? Quebec, Canada. I see you in the building. So yeah, that melody note here. See how many different places I can take it. All right, so as you can see, there's so many ways you can go with that different idea. What's up, Doc? Floyd says, "What's on the topic today? Playing as fire as all." Man, thank you, thank you. So the topic at hand is you're probably asking the wrong questions. You you're probably asking the wrong questions. All right, so who did I miss here? Mr. Morgan, is that your own 6 or 1 from Nate Holloman? Yes, it's mine, brother Steven. I did get this from Nate, but yeah, it's mine. So yeah, so I was playing with this idea. Just kind of taking that melody. We normally would be playing it. That normally would be our root, but if I just use that melody alone and see how many different places I can go with it, you heard me kind of going in and out of different keys. Well, now I'm making that C. I'm making the 4 like my home key. I'm sorry, not that C. I'm tuned different, so that would be B. So I can always get back to the object for me is like, if I have that wide open space, how many different ways? That's not the topic, but it's kind of what I was doing, waiting on a lot more people to come in. So I'll play over this just a little while longer. This is actually from the intro of this show. So some of y'all might recognize it if I do this. Let's see here. Let me back up a little bit. Y'all don't know this part. Yeah, there's a lot more to the song I ain't released yet. Alright, that's too much. Y'all hearing too much. You gotta wait for it to come out on the record. So yes, that's a lot more to this song that y'all haven't heard. Are you using positions and shapes to navigate? You're asking the wrong questions. That's the topic of the day. So, the funny thing is, I know you want to know this stuff, but I don't know if I want to get into it this early. But it's all good. Let's talk about it. So let me go back to that question. Are you using positions and shapes to navigate the fretboard when soloing? See, the topic comes from, I've watched several YouTube interviews of really, really well-known bass players and musicians in general. And some of the questions that I see most people are asked along the lines of, what are you thinking when you're playing? Pretty much all the questions kind of center around that. And I mean, most of us, when we hear our heroes play or people that we look up to, people we admire, that's kind of what we want to know. What are you thinking when you're playing? And this recent interview that I saw yesterday with Richard Bona, and I couldn't agree with him more. He was like, I don't think when I play. It's like I'm not thinking at all. I'm not thinking anything, because it's like you're looking at the instrument as an extension. And I've talked about this somewhat before. You're looking at the instrument as an extension of your voice. So yeah, there's some level of thinking prior to conversation, or prior to if I'm being asked a question, now I have to respond according to whatever the question was. And that's the only amount of thinking that goes into it. Like, I don't start thinking, okay, let me think about the theory of my words. How do I put this definition of, what I'm trying to say? How do I put it all this together? No, I don't think about that. I'm trying to see what's the best way to present this to you. I'm not thinking about sentences. I'm not thinking about, let's put it in musical terms. When I'm in the midst of playing through this, I'm not thinking about how many shapes I can do, how many different modes I can play. Although that's there in my subconscious, for me, I'm not thinking about all of that stuff, because if I start thinking about all of that, it's going to complicate what I'm trying to say, and I'm not going to make any sense. But rather, when I'm speaking musically, I'm just trying to communicate what's already there and just try to give my interpretation of what it is I'm hearing. What would I sing over this? If I could sing like I play, what would I sing over this? You know what I'm saying? So, like, how can I express this through singing? Most people, when they hear a song and they start humming, that's not a lot of thought that goes into it. But when we get to these instruments, or think about it like, let's keep it here for a minute, just keep it on a basic level. When you're growing up, most of you that grew up in school, I know most of the people I went to school with, we always would, beat on the desk and make beats. A lot of thought didn't really go into that. We hear something, or you bored or something like that, and you start tapping. Especially musical people, you get really bored and start tapping on stuff, and just start tapping your hands, beating on your legs, patting and doing all this stuff. You're not really thinking. You just, okay, I hear a groove in my head, and so I'm just kind of going with the motion. So that's a natural thing for you to do, and you start creating grooves, whether you're beating on the desk, whether you're tapping with a pencil, or whether you're just humming something in your head. Like, you're not really thinking. You're feeling it, you're hearing it, and you're expressing it through your body some type of way. So, but the thing that gets complicated with our hands, because we're limited on information, we're still learning this instrument or whatever instrument we play, we start thinking too much. And we start overcomplicating stuff, trying to think of all this extra, these chords. I'm trying to think of these chords. I'm trying to think of shapes. I'm trying to work on my arpeggios. I'm trying to do all this stuff. And you got too much information, and you're not really executing anything. You're really just messing up a lot because you have all this information. Some of y'all, you done took so many lessons and you got so much information, but you have no clue where to put this stuff because you're thinking too much. Now, don't get me wrong. Hear me clearly. There's nothing wrong with attaining a lot of information. There's nothing wrong with taking lessons. There's nothing wrong with digging. And that's because that's the only way you're going to get it. You got to search for it. But at the same time, make sure that you keep the main thing the main thing. And what's the main thing? The main thing is the music. The music is the main thing, not the technique, not the speed, not the shapes, not all of the licks, not all of that stuff. The music is the main thing. And how you express that music, it comes from what's inside of you, what's in your head, what you've listened to over the years, what you've gained, the information that you've gained. I knew people when I was taking theory, because this is my confession for you guys. I didn't do really well. This is, man, almost 20 years ago when I took music theory. I'm getting a little old. So it was not quite 20 years, but it was, getting close. So let's say 17, 18 years ago, I was taking music theory. And one of my struggles was my ear was stronger. I learned to play by ear, so when I went to college for music, I could read okay. Like, it was I played tuba, so my music reading skills didn't have to really be that high. I leaned and I depended a lot on my ear. So when I would take my theory classes, it never made any sense to me because I couldn't separate. Well, I couldn't merge the two. And I understood the music when I heard it, but seeing it on paper was like trying to learn another language for me. And it was very, very difficult, and I got intimidated by it. Every time I would see notes on paper, I would get intimidated. Now, I did enough to pass the classes. I learned how to do it on paper, so I learned the mechanics of it. I could do it all on paper, and it made sense to me a little bit on paper. I knew enough to get through the class, but I didn't know how to merge the two worlds where it made sense on my instrument. I wasn't taught that way. I was taught from the standpoint of sitting in a chair, sitting at a desk, and looking at the teacher do it on the board. Maybe they'll play just, perfect fifth, this kind of different tritones and all that stuff. They would play it on the piano, but they wouldn't put it in the context of music. I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying the way I was taught theory, it was so technical that I didn't know how to apply it to the music. So it made it very difficult for me. Now, on the flip side of it, I had cats that I went to school with who excelled in music theory. I'm talking about they could, they could explain it all down to a T. They got it. They understood it all on paper. But when it came to execution, being able to play all the stuff they knew, disconnect. It was complete disconnect. Now, I didn't know all the stuff they knew on paper and how to theoretically explain everything, but I could play it. I never forget one of my instructors when I was taking theory. It's like I was playing guitar at the time, and I was doing jazz studies with him, so I would have private lessons. So he and I would jam out a lot on the guitar. And I played some stuff, and he looked at me one day. He said, "How did you know to play that?" I said, "How did I know to play what?" He was trying to figure it out because he knew I didn't understand that as far as theory was concerned. So to him, it didn't really make a lot of sense that I knew to play that because he knew I didn't have an understanding of it with theory. But I heard it, I could hear it, and that's what I told him. I'm like, I was just playing what I hear. So a lot of times it's what's in your head that translate a little better than what's in your ears versus what you have in your head, all this knowledge that you have about these things. Some of you guys have learned to merge the worlds together really well, and that's good for you if you learn how to do that. But not everybody knows how to do that, especially people that come from a strong background of using and depending on their ears to hear the music. Sometimes we struggle in the area of merging the two worlds, so it becomes a disconnect for us. All right, before I talk too much and rant on this too much, let's see a few of these comments. Kansas is in the house this morning. Are y'all tuning in because of that Super Bowl? I just want to know, are y'all tuning in because of the? I'm being funny, y'all. So, all right. So Floyd says, I commonly play by heart as, and I play in my feelings on solo, and even on studio work, I will redo it if I don't feel my own feelings in my playing. I get it, man. Absolutely, because it's a little more. And let me put this disclaimer out there. I have so much respect for the cats who understand theory like very, very well, and they're able to communicate music and explain everything they just did to you in theory, or they can tell you what they're going to play before they play it, and it's just they're that sweet with it. I ain't got no problem with that, and I'm not saying anything against it. So just before we get into this debate about, people that read music don't have feel and all, I've heard those debates, and that's not necessarily true, because I know cats that are very good in music theory, and they read very well, and they have feel for days. I mean, they have the whole nines. Like, they can play by ear and go with the best of them, and they can read and go with the best of them. So it's like, you know what I'm saying, oranges and apples, you know what I'm saying? So it's not, you got to be one or the other. There is a mixture. I have learned over the years how to apply the theory to my playing. But getting back to the question at hand, I don't think about this stuff when I'm playing. Now, there are moments, as you heard, when I'm exploring, like in my own practice time, or it can even be in a solo. I can explore an idea and, hold on. But how do you translate what's in my head? How do I translate what's in my head to my instrument, keeping the music the main thing? How do you translate what's in your head to your instrument? It's about practice. At the end of the day, that's the short answer for it. Practicing what's in your head. I've talked about this, and maybe you kind of new to my lessons, but I've talked about this on multiple occasions. Trying to play what you sing, or at least play what you hear. So the better question, I was trying to wait till later to get to this point, but I think it's a good point. The better question that you should be asking is not how do I do this and do you play shapes and do all of that. How do I hear better? How do I listen better? How do I become a better listener? Music is about listening. It's all about listening. I mean, we play music, but when we play it, we're doing what? We're listening. Everything you can't get around hearing music. You can learn all the theory you want to learn, and you can write beautiful pieces. But at the end of the day, the highest level of appreciation when it comes to music, you have to hear it. It all comes down to here. Let me check some of the comments out before I get behind. All right, so all right. So Raphael says you're a straight monster, true inspiration for people like me that can't really play. I can't seem to be able to catch on like others. Maybe I should just stay a fan of bass. Nah, Raphael, don't do that, man. How do you play and create tensions? You're asking the wrong questions. Floyd Foster says, appreciate it. I'm gonna get y'all with that. That's my topic today. So don't take it personal. I'm just gonna tear you up. When you ask me something like that, I'm gonna tear you up today with it. So take it in love, take it in stride. That's how we get better. All right. I get an idea and fail to execute. I get it. So all that stuff. Good morning, David. Good morning to you, man. I had to learn how to put the bass down and listen. Now there you go. I would ask a friend of mine. I have a good friend of mine who's a phenomenal songwriter, and I write some songs with him in gospel. But this dude, when we were growing up, he's a few years older than me. But when we were growing up, this dude was a jazz phenom. Like it was ridiculous the stuff that he understood in terms of improvisation, and he understood the theory of it. So he could tell you everything. Hey, I'm about to play this, and this is I'm gonna show you 7 different ways that I can play. This G minor 11 or whatever the case may be. I'm gonna show you all these different ways I can play this, and he would just rip and go for it. But for me, I didn't understand it because I'm saying this for a reason. When I first got into trying to improvise, I didn't know how to keep it going. So I would play I could come up with licks. They would be short licks. So I'll play something like that's it. You calling me for a solo? that's all I got. So you calling me? We had a nice little groove like this right here that we was just playing. And I would like Jermaine take a solo. All right, thank you, and that would be it. I'll be done, guys. Out for the count. So I didn't know how to continue the idea. So I was asking him, like, man, I don't know how to keep it going. Like I'll have one lick or 2 or 3 licks, but I didn't know how to connect them. I didn't know how to put them all together. And he gave me some things that I could do, but it all came down for me. It all came down to practicing and building my vocabulary. And that's basically kind of what he told me. But it came down to me practicing. And I think a lot of you guys, and don't take this the wrong way, take it in love. Everything I'm saying today is in love. So I'm trying to help you, and I'm trying to help you to know it's really no shortcuts in getting better. And the stuff you hear me that I'm able to do now, I couldn't do this stuff years ago, like 12, 15 years ago. I couldn't do this stuff, and I struggled. I struggled so bad trying to figure this stuff out. And so don't think because you hear me doing this stuff today, oh man, you could always do this stuff, but I need to know how you I need to know how to do this, it's the easy answer is practice. You have to practice. There's no other way around it. And I know that's like a cliche. Oh, we know we have to practice, Jermaine. That's a given. Yeah, you have to practice on getting out of your comfort zone. Because a lot of it is going to come down to your comfort zone. You have to get out of that comfort zone. Stop practicing over the same stuff and move on to something else you're not necessarily comfortable with. Yeah, we want to perfect the stuff we know. I know I've talked about that before. The working on the stuff and really, really perfecting that. But at some point, you got to keep it moving. Don't just stay on that. Start stretching your vocabulary and getting back to the listening thing. What are you taking in? It's hard to come up with ideas when you don't hear anything. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're not hearing any chops or like hearing other instruments like saxophone or hearing a vocalist, a really, really good vocalist, and trying to mimic that. It's like repeat what you're hearing. Get it in your ears first, and now start trying to play what you sing. Now the ground level of that is just start with the simplest melodies that you can hear in your head. If you can learn how to do that on bass, it starts to connect the dots for you. And that's the biggest thing that I was talking about with not being able to keep it going. I didn't know how to connect the dots. I had licks and all this kind of stuff. But once I play that one lick, I didn't know how to connect it to another lick. So you have to figure out how to connect those dots by like singing. How is that lick? So if I'm playing it's early, so my voice gonna sound a mess. Y'all know I'm playing minor pentatonic, just in case some of y'all wondering what it is I'm playing. But I gotta know what that sounds like. But I don't have to be so technical. I just need to get the sound in my head. Now, if I want to identify what it is so I can quickly go to it, yeah, it's important that I know, okay, that's a minor pentatonic. But there are people like B.B. King, for one, or a lot of the blues cats that had no idea what this stuff was. So it's not necessary that you know all the theory in order to be a good musician. Now, it's great that you know the theory so that you can definitely explain it to somebody, and it just makes you all around a better musician in terms of being able to explain to somebody, to be able to communicate it to somebody. But that doesn't mean you're any less of a good musician because you don't know theory. So we can kill that myth. That doesn't make you any less of a great musician because you don't know theory or because you don't read music. It's about being able to hear it and being able to understand what it is you're hearing, practicing in that repetition, getting it up under your hands so that you can know how to get to what it is you're hearing faster. Now that's where that practice comes in. Now I hear all this different stuff. So like when I was saying I was playing around with this melody, I don't know all the different things I can play around this melody. I just know this one note, and I know a lot of phrases, or I've heard these phrases, and what I do is I keep practicing until I figure these phrases out. So I'll demonstrate, break up some of my talking. I'll demonstrate a little bit. All right, you hear that note? So that's all I have to work with is that one note. And I got a good idea of, okay, how many places can I go from this? I can use this as my one. All right, so that's my E flat. That is my one. So I can play around with it being the one. I can play around with it being the four. I can play around with it being the two. I have so many options. I'm not limited to, all right, I know this song is in the key of E flat minor, so I got to play everything in the key of E flat minor. No, I don't have to do that. I can use this in the key of F sharp. You know what I'm saying? Like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have to be limited to or restricted to that. But that comes from being able to hear and understand, okay, I heard this somewhere before. You know what I'm saying? Like, just sing a melody. Just randomly sing it off that note. So let me find that. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So and put it together. So now I can take that little phrase. That's the same thing I sang, but I sped it up. So y'all are making stuff complicated when you can just take something simple. I didn't take something really complicated. I mean, I'm taking that minor. I broke it up. It started something like that. I don't remember exactly what I did, but I started with that phrase. Simple melody, something that I can understand. And then I did. So I'm putting that phrase together. Now here's the other thing. I'm not worried about a shape right now. I'm not worried about what it is. In theory, I don't care at this point. At this point, I'm just trying to get out of my head what I'm hearing. And even if it don't make sense right away. So if I take that melody and play something that goes completely against that. So again. gonna take that same note and I'm gonna use it in the context of B major. So we got I'm gonna ignore the fact that I've been playing minor this whole time. And that's the thing. Get away from that box that y'all like build for yourself and you stick yourself in it. I'm saying y'all. I've done it before. That's why I'm saying it. So don't take it personal. But get out of that box that you've been building yourself into and thinking, okay, like when it comes to improvisation, I gotta stay here. I gotta do this. You know what I'm saying? Like get out of that. So I'm playing the B major scale. So now I can take that same, it's in that B major scale. So now I'll build everything around that and see what ideas I can come up based off that B major scale. So we all know the major scale for the most part, right? We all know the major scale. So now instead of focusing on being in E flat minor, I'm gonna play, and I'm showing y'all something. When I put it together, you're gonna see, oh wow, I didn't even think about that. I'm gonna focus on playing in B major instead of worrying about E flat minor. So here we go. So, as you can hear, I'm completely ignoring the fact that the groove is in E flat. Now, this can happen when you have, like, you may think, man, I can only do that if the person is grooving over that B. Nope, not true. Because that E flat can be going the whole time. It just gives me a different sound. So now I'm thinking in my solo or whatever, I'm just kind of ignoring the fact that there's E flat there because I know it's relative. When I know it's relative, I know it works. I know this melody will work. Yeah, it's giving me one of the modes, but I'm not even thinking modes right now. So I'm trying to get y'all out because I know somebody on the other side of this that's listening to this, that's analyzing it. Oh man, you're playing this particular mode. You playing the Phrygia mode or something. You know what I'm saying? Like y'all thinking too much. You're thinking too much. Just hear it. Hear what it is I'm doing and simplify what it is I'm doing so that you don't think, okay, that's this mode. I mean, once you get to that point, you need to explain it. Yeah, now worry about the modes and all that stuff. But in order, so you won't have constipation as a musician, stop thinking about all of these rules and stop thinking about analyzing everything and trying to know all the answers and just play what you hear. So again, I'm going to ignore the fact that I'm supposed to be playing in E flat. And I'm going to just have fun in B. And I'm not in the wrong key, I'm relative. So if you were to hit that low that low E flat at any time, I'll still be good. But I know what I'm playing is relative to that melody. And so being able to hear in more ways than what I'm used to hearing in. So now as a bass player, when somebody calling me for a solo and it's just me and the drums, I'm not stuck in this whole E flat block, this whole E flat minor block. That's the only thing I can play in right now is E flat minor. No, that's a whole bunch of other stuff. You know what I'm saying? So if I were to even take the relative F sharp minor, so we pulling that B, the 4. We know in the key of E flat minor, if we go up 4, the relative to the E flat minor would be that F sharp major. I know I might be talking over some of y'all's head, but just think the relative of the E flat minor is that F sharp or G flat major. You know what I'm saying? So now I'm not limited when it comes to me soloing over. And if you can't remember all the relative and all that kind of stuff, just think, all right, if I go 4 steps up from whatever the minor key that we grooving in with, well, if I go up 4 steps from that, I can get to its major. I'm gonna make this simple for y'all. If I go up 4 steps, I can get to its relative major. And I'm gonna get to the comments. I see y'all commenting and I'm gonna get to them. But if I go 4 steps up, I'm just trying to give y'all some little nuggets that you can take and you can get out of that block so you can become a little bit more creative. All right, so if I go 4 steps up, I'm dumbing this way down. 4 steps up from whatever the minor key we grooving in, that lands me on the major. So now that I'm relative, I'm playing not minor. Once I go up 4 steps, I'm not still minor, I'm major. So remember that. So it's the same difference. If I'm playing in F sharp major and I go down 4 steps, that's gonna put me on the 6th, which is that E flat minor. So just let's reverse it again. So if I'm in E flat minor or E flat dominant, I can go up 4 steps to its relative major. Now everything on that relative major or 4 steps up, everything that falls under that F sharp major is available to me to use for my solo. So now I don't have to just use F sharp. I can use the 2. I can use the 3. I can use the 4. What we was playing earlier. That lands us back on that melody. I can use my 5. Lost my place. That Mixolydian. So I'm not trying to think about all that right now. I'm just telling you I can use my 5 because that falls under the F sharp major. I'm just using all of the notes of this scale. I can use my 6. I can use my 7. And I can use back to the 1. Let me make sense out of all of that because I know that's a lot of information. I'm just trying to give y'all something. All right. So now we're here. That's E flat minor. I'm gonna take it 4 steps up, and I'm not gonna even fool with the E flat minor right now. I'm just gonna simply play off of everything. I'm gonna play off of everything that's available to me in this F sharp. All right. So everything I'm gonna be playing is based off this F sharp and pulling from the scale of F sharp. And so that's where that B comes into place. That's where that A flat or however you want to think of G sharp, that's where that all comes into place. On the 1. On the 7. Back to the 1. And I can land right back on the 1. So all of that stuff is relative. Raise your hand if that made any sense to you, or give me some type of indication that I ain't way out there left field and I done lost everybody. Let me know if that makes sense to you, what I am talking about. I'm gonna read a few of these comments before I keep going. All right. Portugal, I see you in the building. All right, that's the first thing I saw, sorry. Raphael, all right. So, good morning from West Virginia. I guess that's what that is. I used to play with the punk bands when I was younger, but uh, never really learned. I picked it up again at age 42. I just want to glorify God. That's awesome, Brian. I came to playing by ear, and I met Victor Wooten about 2 years ago, and he basically gave me the same advice you were giving to me about theory, and I'm learning to just have exactly. Can't say it any better, Vic. Um, Steven says, "Thank you, sir. On board. Appreciate your time and wisdom and instruction, man. It's my pleasure, man." Andre, greetings to you, man. Good morning from Mobile, Alabama, sir. Enjoy your Tuesday video. What do you think about tuning down half step? If that's something you want to do, go for it, man. There's nothing to it. I like it because I like the open B flat. I get asked about that a lot, so I like the open B flat. So it's cool. And how does it fit with other standard? How does it fit with others who are standard tune? I can even talk. It's it works just fine. It's the same. It's no different from a guitar player putting a capo on the strings and transposing the guitar to access different notes on the guitar or to play different chords. So nothing changes. The only thing changes is your position of where you would normally be. So that's the only thing. You have to change and shift everything over in your mind. Well, shift everything down a half step in your mind. Where it would normally be, where your E would normally be open, your E is here. Sometimes it messes with me because I tune back and forth so often. And I had to get comfortable with that because when I teach you guys, I teach lessons generally. I have my other basses tuned standard. So sometimes I have to think about what it is I'm saying because I could be calling out a note and I'm saying C when I'm actually playing B. So I have to think about it sometimes. But after a while, the repetition of it, you get more comfortable with it, and you just know, okay, I'm tuned standard. The biggest thing is just knowing whatever instrument you're on, having an idea. If you don't have perfect pitch, having an idea of, okay, this particular instrument is tuned standard, or this instrument is not tuned standard, and being aware of that before you start playing. That's the biggest thing, is awareness. When it comes to tuning down, you can tune your bass down to whatever key you want to tune it down to. I wouldn't advise it to tune too far down past A, but people do. But me personally, it's being aware. It's being aware of where you are at all times, and I think you'll be fine. All right. For the lesson, this lesson before I run off to work, this was very helpful to me. I've been in my head far too much. We all have, man, from time to time. We think too much. To me, that's the best thing about playing by ear. You're not constrained by the rules. When you do learn the rules, you know how to break. Exactly. You know how to break the rules. 49, I think that's Bill. I'm glad this makes sense to you. Hopefully I'm still connected here. I don't know. I'm getting a little swirling wheel here. I don't know what's going on there. All right, so kind of Jermaine of those numbers during the solos, as long as it falls within that chord structure. Big Nick, you asking the wrong questions, and I say that because can y'all still see me? I see my screen is doing something weird, like it's not connected or something. Can y'all still see and hear me? Somebody let me know that you can still hear me. I don't want to keep talking and you guys are not hearing me. Let's move around here just in case. Okay, thank you, Paul. All right. So, Big Nick, if you're still here, so the thing about it, all right. So if you got it, kinda. Here's the thing. Don't worry about all of the chords and all that kind of stuff. If I know, we're taking this from the concept of this groove that I'm playing or any open groove, and I know we're over that E flat minor or the E flat dominant. It will work better over the minor, but if you got like an open solo, and this is the thing, most times in all the bands that I've been in, unless you're playing an actual song and your solo over the chord changes, most of the time they break the music and let the bass player have it. So when they break the music and let the bass player have it, and you just say you're in an open E, if you're grooving in an open E and they break the music, it's like most of us just stay right there. I'm playing in E flat, but just imagine you're in E. We just go slapping crazy with an open E, and we don't think anything outside of that E minor pentatonic. Some of us might sneak a minor in there. We might sneak half minor or whatever in there, but most of us don't think outside of that wall of that minor pentatonic. And what I'm doing is I'm giving you options. So if you were to be in a situation and you're called on to play outside of that, or if you're at a shed, if you're whatever the case may be, whatever the scenario is, if you're playing over chord, and this don't have to just work for just an open E jam or open E flat jam. It's like it can work anywhere that you have a minor chord. So if I'm taking, like, if the groove is over that E flat minor, or if the groove is over, if it's moving around, we go on E flat minor. I can do the same thing if we move down to A flat minor. I can go 4 steps up to that B. My biggest thing about doing it is I have to be aware of where the chords are moving, at least have an idea, meaning hearing it. I gotta hear where it's going and have a good idea, and from hearing it, that helps me to make my decisions of what it is I'm gonna play. So this wide open groove right here that nothing is really moving, I just got one note ringing, it's kind of easy to go wherever it is I want to go. But if the chords are moving, if I'm going like, now that doesn't necessarily limit my options, it just makes me have to move through them a little bit faster. So now my practice time comes into play. I need to have practiced these ideas that it is I'm talking about. Now, the stuff that I'm saying, I'm telling y'all to not overthink and all this kind of stuff, but you do have to put in the work in your own personal practice time. So when it comes to time for you to pull out this stuff, you can execute it without struggling. You know what I'm saying? So in your own practice time, you got to kind of play around with the ideas, because it's not enough to just hear it. You got to get it up on your hands and be able to, all the stuff I'm playing this morning, I hadn't practiced this particular solo, but I practiced these ideas enough that I'm able to at least navigate and create something on the spot and come up with something, because I've spent enough time with playing the scales. I've spent enough time with kind of going through. I would sound a mess while I'm trying to demonstrate. And so on. So I've spent enough time there that I know where all of that stuff is at, so I don't have to keep trying to guess and think about it. It's like, okay, if I know if I'm playing on it over this F sharp, all of these things are available to me right now in F sharp. So while I have this thing, I can pull and not just stay on something major the whole time. No, I got options, so I'll show you. I'll show you better than I can tell you. Let's see here. Come on, give me the will of death. All right, so now I have options. I know that I can pull from this F sharp and stuff like that, but I don't have to stay on the F sharp the entire time. I can go back and forth between that minor pentatonic sound that I like, and then I can go to some major stuff to break up the monotony of my solo. I can take a simple concept and build a really good solo. Stay there. I'm just setting the foundation here. idea. It's like that's on the spot, but that's pretty much how your solo is gonna happen. It's not gonna be perfect most of the time. You're not gonna play the perfect solo, but if you're being honest with what you're hearing, like there, I was just trying to prove a point in terms of using those two scale, not prove a point, but like just demonstrate rather, using those two things, using that E flat minor and or E flat minor pentatonic, and then also using the F sharp. You know what I'm saying? I was just pulling from the two and going back and forth in between that. You know what I'm saying? So let me see. Okay, gotcha, Nick. So Nick, hopefully that's making sense, man. That's weird. Why it's breaking up? I don't know what's going on. We got a little bad weather. It seems like the weather kicks off normally when I go live. So I'm sorry about that, guys. So yeah, I apologize. I really can't do anything about that. Hopefully it'll hold up while I finish this. So now again, I'm just taking these ideas from the minor pentatonic and the major. Remember how I got to that? I just go 4 steps up from that minor pentatonic. So now I'm not stuck just in that, just stuck in that wall. So again, at the end of the day, the question you need to be asking is, how do I hear better? How do I better hear this stuff? It comes from repetition, doing it over and over again. And just to set some of y'all at ease, this is not going to come overnight. The stuff that I'm talking about is not going to come overnight. So you probably going to have to go back and watch this video over and over and over and over again just to make sense out of it, because a lot of the stuff that I'm telling you and giving you the short answer to, I had to figure this out the hard way. I had to figure this out over years. It took me a lot of time. I didn't have formal teaching when it came to bass. Nobody really sat me down and told me all of this stuff. I took theory, but nobody explained it to me in this way that it makes sense. People gave me structure, and this is how you do this is how you do that, but nobody really told me how to merge it all together and to create flowing lines and that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, I'm listening to all these different players over the years. Absolutely, Nick. I'm just hearing all these different players and stuff over the years and seeing how they're putting stuff together, and I don't understand how it is they're putting this stuff together. And now I'm understanding it comes from your vocabulary. It comes from like you being able to sing. And when I say singing what you play, you don't have to, you don't have to be a vocal maestro. That's not necessary. You can hear it, even if you don't sing it well. I'll use my uncle for example. My uncle is a terrible singer. I'm not gonna say which uncle, but I have an uncle that plays, and he's a terrible singer. But I hear him often singing the stuff he wants to play when it comes to his guitar. He sings the lines. To us, me and my brother used to listen to him playing, and we would laugh because the stuff he would be singing did not match what he was playing. But in his mind, he knew what he was hearing. So he would sing, and he would sing one thing and play something different. But in his mind, his mouth and what's coming out of his mouth ain't matching necessarily, but what his mind is doing and what his hands is doing is syncing, and it's all about making the connection. So if you can hear his guitar over his voice, you're good. So if you're far enough off, you don't hear all that humming and all that stuff in the wrong key. But it's all about it's all about being able to execute what you're hearing in your head and making sure that your hands connect with it. And a lot of times your voice, for some people need to say it out or scat it out until they get comfortable with connecting the two. Sometimes that voice is the mediator between the two. You don't have to sing it perfect, but at least having some other body part making that connection for you from your head to your hands, having some other body part connecting it. I remember a drummer that I kind of somewhat grew up with. He always would say, if you can sing it, you can play it. He would always have a statement like that. Like when he would talk about, he was teaching people about playing rhythms. He was like, if you can sing it or if you can say it, you can play it. So bucket of fish, boom, 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 bucket of fish, and so if I tried it on the drum, bucket of boom, so that makes sense to me. So I can play that feel on the drums now because I know what it sounds like. I can put syllables to what this thing is, and now my drum feels boom. You know what I'm saying? So I can sing all of that stuff or say all of those rhythms out, and it makes sense to me. So having some form of way, using your mouth to make the connection from your head to your hands can make a world of difference for a lot of you guys and help you to get out of your own head. Potential that is unlocked because I don't know my scales. Yeah, I mean, it's a never-ending journey, man. One thing I'm learning to do the older I get and the more experience I get as a player is to give myself credit. Not become conceited, not become arrogant, but to give myself credit for what I do know. Confidence produces results. When you have confidence, it encourages you to keep going. It encourages you to keep creating good results when you build that confidence. And how you build that confidence in your playing is start giving yourself, I did a whole video on this, but one of the things I share with y'all now, start giving yourself credit for what you do right. Okay, you don't know all of your scales, but what do you know? That's good. Like, I got some quartet cats back home. Honorable mention, Mr. Ben Real, bass player from back in Mississippi. Now, Ben, when it comes to all this MJ2, I see you. Good morning to you. When it comes to Ben, man, Ben is not finna play all these scales and all this different stuff. But if you put him in the context of a quartet, good old quartet song or a good old church song, I'm talking about if you ain't never heard of what a drive is, what a quartet drive. This is what a quartet drive is. It's something like. So something that simple is like a quartet drive. Now, if you put my dude Ben on something like that, he will murder. I mean, he will kill the house all night long. I don't care who you bring in there. If you put him in there with a good band, with a good drummer, and let him let loose on that drive, he will wear you out with that drive all night long. And that's all. I mean, I don't need anything else from him. I need that drive because that's what you do well. My point of that story is that's what he really does well. And so he knows he can come in and lock a drive. It don't matter what's going on. I don't care how bad the bass player that just sat down was, how much he just did, how many solos he just played. When he gets on that bass and he plays this drive, curtains closed, guys, lights out, it's over with, because he's like, the whole crowd is standing up there with him. They can feel what it is he's doing. He's passionate about it. You can feel it, you understand it, it makes sense to you. And that's the thing, it's not technical. He ain't worried about all his theory when they get up there. He's worried about locking with that groove. He locks with the groove, but to each his own. Again, that might not be your cup of tea, but being able to acknowledge what it is you do well and capitalize on that and keep building. Building on what it is you do well. Build on your strengths. Find out what that strength is for you and keep building. Keep capitalizing on your strengths. Don't worry about, oh man, I can't do all this. I can't do that. We understand. We all want to get better. That will come with time as you practice. But whatever your strength is, figure out how to capitalize on that strength. How do I build on this strength? All right. So I see some other comments here. Hopefully I didn't lose you guys. So you can look that up on Google, or just look up the website, and you can find these t-shirts. They have multiple colors, all this kind of stuff. Just repping them today. Fraternity. All right. So just look it up. You can Google it. You'll find it. Let me see some more comments before I jump off of here. Dave says, in church we play a lot, somewhat fast. Yeah. You have to practice fast. Like, you have to work on that stuff and try executing some of the stuff we've talked about today in those shout grooves. Some of the stuff you're not going to be able to pull off, but some of the stuff you can. Bubby Lewis is a prime example. If you follow Robert Bubby Lewis, he talked about one of the ways he got so fast on basses that he would sit and practice shout music all the time. And so if you're practicing at those high speeds and you're trying to execute those ideas at those high speeds, you're gonna naturally get better at it. It's gonna take time to do it, and speed is difficult when you're working on speed, but you can clean speed at slow tempos, meaning like you can clean up the stuff that you're playing, but the way you get fast is by playing fast. You gotta bump that metronome up, or bump that groove up, or be in the moment of where you have to think on your feet. So the people who play really fast, like a lot of the people I mentioned, I sent out an email. If you're on my email list, I talked about this. I got a shout bump bass course on my website that kind of teaches you some of the ins and outs of playing shout music. If you want to check that out, JermaineMorgan.net. But one of the things I talk about, for people who come up in a lot of those apostolic backgrounds, they are really good and they're really fast. Well, they have practice every single week. If y'all doing shouts like 2 or 3 times a Sunday, every single week, every time y'all meet, and you're doing this off and on for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20 years, you're going to be good at playing fast. Most of the people who play really fast have more trouble trying to play stuff that's slow because they're always used to playing things that are really fast. So they don't know what to play when it comes to playing ballads. A lot of these people, that you know what I'm saying, everything has to be fast. So it just comes from a repetition of doing it fast. If your struggle is speed, well, you got to bump that metronome up and start pushing your boundaries. And if you want to clean up what you're doing, you got to take your metronome back down. The stuff you just played fast, now slow it down and begin to clean it and work it up to speed. But in order to get fast, yeah, you got to keep pushing the boundaries of your speed and keep making yourself play stuff that's fast, play stuff that's uncomfortable, and make yourself just go for it. Go for it. Get over the fact that it's not all clean and all precise. Get over it and just go for it. That's how you work on that speed. That's how you get that speed up. And that's my short answer. A lot of okay, I see what you're saying about the shouts. Nick says, thank you, Jermaine. I needed to hear this so badly, man. My pleasure. Marcus says, thank you for this video. I know theory, but I lack an ear. I can find what song a key is in, but I'm not able to figure out the progression. I realize practice helps, but are there any other tricks? Nope. In terms of, no, that was harsh. He says, let me look at your question again. He said, I practice, I can find what key a song is in, but I'm not able to figure out the progression. Listening, man. The other trick is listening and calling out the numbers. Do you know numbers? That's the number one question. Do you know your numbers? Your numbers will help you to better recognize progressions. Because you might not know all the chords that a person is going to, but if you can recognize numbers or position, the number system, the thing I would say that helps you to quickly identify what a song is doing. If you know the number system, you can learn what a song is doing a lot quicker. You can learn songs a lot quicker with knowing the number system, because now you start to recognize, okay, they're playing the 1, okay, they just went to the 4, they just went to the 6. All right, that's the flat 5, the in-between stuff. A lot of y'all know the numbers, but y'all don't know the in-between, however you identify them. I call them like flat 5, flat 6, the flat 2, flat 7, flat 3rd, or whatever the case may be. Being able to identify what it is that's going on in a song, that helps you quickly to learn a song. For me, I have a system where I chart music. If I got a lot of songs that I got to do, I chart them out. I literally take me a chart, a sheet of paper. It's not complicated. I take me a sheet of paper. I'll show you. Some of y'all know the King of Glory, Ty Dulaney song. Here's my chart for this song. It's that simple. And where you see the lines, that's my bar. That represents my bar. If I got a dot in between it like that, we going at the top from that 6 to that 1. 6, 6, wait. 1, wait. It's like the dots represent 4 beats in that bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just giving y'all my quick charting system. 6, 1, You know what I'm saying? So on. So you can see how it is. I chart out these different songs. I'm trying to read this backwards. That's why I'm lost. The camera has it flipped around backwards. But that's my charting system. Find you a way to learn these songs by charting them. When you chart songs, sometimes you can retain them a lot quicker because you're writing it down. Even if you don't use the chart, but just the activity of writing that down helps you to retain it a little bit quicker, get it under your hands a little bit quicker, understand what's going on, and you identify different parts of the song. And some of you guys that have a photographic memory, charting really will help you out. Just being able to chart it down, because you might not even need to chart. Once you write it down, you remember what it is. I remember the song in this structure form, and I know even if we move from this structure, I kind of know what each section looks like. So that might be something that'll help you. Listening, doing more listening, that's the key to it all. Listening and strengthening your ears and strengthening your response time to what it is you're hearing, so you can quickly play it. Kind of what the whole lesson been about for the most part. Um, let's see here. Alton says, "What's the best way to gain speed in your picking hand, in your plucking hand?" Same thing. Same thing I just said earlier, man. Just you know what I'm saying? Playing faster stuff, running those, like playing your scales, playing. If you're just gonna do shout music, you know what I'm saying? Just kind of running that different stuff and doing it. Repetition. Repetition helps you to build speed. Um, just don't quit when you mess up. Just fix it and start from the top. That's a good point, Floyd. Yeah, don't quit. Keep going and make adjustments as you go. You don't have to have. It's the other thing. I'll say this. You don't have to have all the answers, y'all. You don't. When it comes to this playing, if you're new to this, if you're fairly new, if you're intermediate, you don't need all the answers. I'm hoping that I'm saving some of y'all some time, because a lot of this stuff I didn't figure out till later. And now going back in hindsight, they said hindsight is always 2020. Looking at so much time I wasted second guessing myself, second guessing what I could do. I'm like, I could have been so much farther along had I not been wasting all this time trying to know all the answers, asking so many questions. It's like, stop asking so many questions and just do it. Use the Nike slogan, just do it. I talk to people all the time, man. When I get this, or when I do this, or when I do that, I'm gonna start with. No, just do it. Just go home and pick your bass up. Don't go buy anything. When I get me a loop pedal, I'm gonna start working. What do you got now? Do you have a recorder on your phone? All right, use the recorder on your phone. Do you have headphones for your phone? All right, well, record yourself playing a bass line. I'm giving you some tips. If you got a way to record yourself playing a bass line, record yourself playing a 3-minute bass line on your phone. Put it in your ears. You need to solo. I don't have a loop pedal. I can't afford one right now. What are you doing to shorten that window of you taking action? Record a loop on your phone. Like, use your software on most of y'all phones record. So either record a video of you playing a groove and play it long enough where you can practice to it. Play it for 2 or 3 minutes. Play the groove. Keep a solid groove. You know what I'm saying? And then go back, play that groove, and play to it. Solo, play you some ideas. I ain't got no band, man. I ain't got nothing to jam with. There are tons I put backing tracks on YouTube every single week. So some of y'all is no excuse. You're making excuses. Don't make any excuses. You know what I'm saying? Find out how to get it done. At this point, there is no excuse. I'm creating backing tracks that feel like live bands for almost any scenario that you want to find yourself in. You can get on there. I took the bass out, so you can play it. You can play your bass to it, come up with your ideas. The biggest thing is stop making excuses. Stop wasting time. Listen to it. Figure it out. If you're a beginner, there's no easy way. There's no easy way to it. There's no 3 steps to become the best player in the world. There's no 3 steps. You're just going to have to sit down, spend the time with it. All of it's about time. And the quicker you can get to executing and knocking that time factor down, the faster you're going to get to where it is you're trying to go. Because you're not going to outrun time when it comes to learning how to play this instrument. That's the thing. It ain't no quick, okay, I'm going to learn the short keys. Like we doing music production. We learn the quick keys to get stuff done. Ain't no quick keys with playing. There's no quick keys. You have to put the time in. You have to practice. You have to be dedicated. You have to be committed. You have to be fully committed to this thing in order to figure it out. I have tons of resources. I have tons of resources on my website to help you. I got tons of free resources here on YouTube, probably just as much as I have on my website. Of course, with my website, I get a little bit more in depth on a lot of the things I talk about. I spend a little bit more time. I do coaching calls, bass coaching calls. What is that? I can help you in terms of listening to your playing, being able to analyze where you are as a player, and helping you go to the next place. The one-on-one thing. I'm limited. Now, I will say this. I'm limited on spaces because there's only so much time I can dedicate to those one-on-one coaching calls, because I do have other stuff that I do. But you know what I'm saying? If you're trying to get on with that, and MJ too, send me another email. I think I responded to your email last week. Let's follow up because I'm not sure what you're talking about. But send me an email, Jermaine at JermaineMorgan.net. If you've already got an email from me, you already know how to get in contact with me. So I'm telling you guys, there's so many free resources available and paid resources available. If you believe in what you're trying to do, invest into your all that. Stephen Lee, all of that's available on the website. You can see all the prices because it's different categories on different times for the time slots for the coaching calls. If you need me to listen, what I was saying with the coaching calls, if you need me to listen to where you are as a player, because a lot of the people that I'm coaching right now, the biggest thing that they like about the calls is the fact that I can kind of listen to where they're making the mistakes and help them to correct it right there on the spot and tell them, okay, this is kind of where you're messing up at. You're doing this or you're doing it, like different scenarios that people have, and just kind of give people some real time. And with the coaching calls, it's not something that has to go on for months and months and months. I have the coaching call set up to where you can block out at least 4. That creates a little bit of accountability. Some people extend them and they keep going, but for the most part, a lot of people come through and they do 2 or 3 or 4 calls and they're out. They just need some little stuff. Okay, I need to make some adjustments here, here, and here. Cool, I got you. I keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? So it's not something that we're trying to stretch out. If you're trying to be a part of the monthly membership, of course, those lessons go on and on. It's a monthly fee of $11.99 a month, and that's videos each single week. I'm giving you videos outside of YouTube. I'm giving you videos on different content, and there's over almost 200 videos already that's archived under the monthly membership lessons that you have to pull from with all these questions that y'all are answering. I've probably answered a lot of these questions in my monthly membership lessons. All right, let me see a few of these comments before I jump off. I got nothing on last week's backing track. Yeah, MJ, send me a email. I want to make sure I understand what you're talking about exactly. Or we can speak off of here so I don't spend time with that on this live. Alta Dixon says, thanks, brothers. That applies to life too. Absolutely. I have that tendency. Ty says, just love your jamming with Ant Parrish. Are you going to have him again? You two had it going on. I don't know if I have Ant Parrish again. I'm not in the same area that I was in, so it's a little more difficult to get people out here where I'm at now. I moved a little farther away. And not to mention, Ant works. Ant travels with Alicia Keys and some of the bigger names in R&B. So yeah, I'm not always able to access those guys. So the fact that you see them on the show, a lot of these guys, they're not easy to access. So hopefully y'all are taking that stuff from, what was it, Jermaine Morgan season 2, all those interviews and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully y'all are taking that stuff to heart and running with that. Floyd says, tell more about the phone setup because some don't know about things like iRig and how to record themselves without having to buy studio gear. Might be another video on this. Yeah, that's gonna be a whole nother video, Floyd. Backing tracks have been helping. Thank you, Mario. My pleasure. Jermaine, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Wes, it's my pleasure. Thanks for all the backing tracks. Absolutely my pleasure. I'm here to try to help with this as much content as I possibly can. My ultimate goal is to try to give you guys the stuff that I wish somebody would have gave me when I was getting started. A lot of my stuff was trial and error, and I had to figure a lot of the stuff out the hard way. So the information, I would say this, the information that I have given out up to this point, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on my website, I never had access to this kind of information at all. I mean, I didn't. The only person I can kind of, well, I ain't gonna say the only person. There are a handful of people that gave me stuff here and there, but just being able to have access to stuff being broke down to me every single week, several times a week, oh man, that did not happen at all when I was getting started. But we're in the age of technology, and now we're able to share this information, and I'm able to share information with people in China. You know what I'm saying? That's so cool. So I count it an honor and a privilege to be able to share with you guys, and I thank you for listening to what it is I have to say. I thank you for taking your time out to hear this. If you found this video helpful, be sure to share it with somebody who needs this information. Do you buy smell woman? Okay, I'm not gonna. That's spam, so we're not responding to that. It's too early for spam, man. What y'all got going on that y'all spamming this early in the morning? It's too early for that. Uh, so yeah, if you let me go ahead and block you because I see you gonna keep going. Let's go ahead and we're gonna go ahead and block you. There you go. So yep, I yeah, you just got blocked. It's too early for that. It's too early for the foolishness. So yeah, if you guys need any additional help, be sure to check out JermaineMorgan.net, and you'll find tons of resources there to give you hopefully the answers. And some of the stuff that y'all want to ask me, we can do it in a one-on-one call, and I can better address your question. And we don't have to. I don't have to filter through everybody else. Let's do that in a one-on-one call. If you have something that's really, really personal that you need to ask me about your playing, personal. Let me be specific about your playing, kind of where you need to. Some areas you need to strengthen, some areas you need to work on. I love to be able to sit down in a coaching call with you and show you, okay, these are some things you could be working on to improve, or these are some things you can personally do, because everything doesn't work for everybody. That's my disclaimer. Everything doesn't work for everybody, so some stuff might have to be tailored to you. And I'm finding that out the more I do the coaching calls. Every player is different. Everybody is different. I'm different. You're different. So what works for me might not work for you. And so one of the things I try to tell people is this is the way I do it, and this is what's most comfortable for me. But this is not the only way to do it. So let's have that call. Set it up. Remember, I'm limited on spaces. People fall off from time to time, so spaces open up. So that's why you hear me continually talk about the coaching calls. It's not something that I got 18 people locked in and nobody else can get in. People come and go. So there are spaces. You might get in today if you try to you know what I'm saying? If you try to set it up. So if you want to talk to me, if you want to set up that coaching call, go ahead and sign up for it, and go ahead and email me about it. Let's set up your coaching call. And if you don't get in right away, we'll definitely get you worked in. If you need some help on playing shout music, playing fast, I have those courses available on the website. If you need licks and all that kind of stuff, have that available. And hopefully this has been helpful to you guys that has stood around or hung around all the way up until this point. I appreciate you for doing that again, and I'm finna be out, guys. Thank you. I'm out. Blessings to you, man. God loves you. So do I. Ain't nothing you can do about it. All right. I'm out of here. Peace.